All right, so OpenAI just released ChatGPT Images 2.0, their newest image model. And as any AI product managers out there should do, I put it to the test against some of the AI features of my app. So let me show you how. So I want to test this model against the feature on my app that lets me generate these like cute clay-styled images for each of my blog posts, okay? So here's the one, for instance, for the blog post about Claude Managed Agents. And the workflow that works behind is pretty simple. As you can see here, what I do is that I provide as input the content of the article, and with GPT Image 1, it generates the thumbnail that you can see here. So what I want to test is actually how that would render if I were to use GPT Image 2. So let's actually spin up a Claude session here, and let's just say that we are going to test this new model, okay? So I want to test generating the clay-styled image that we use on the blog with a new model that was recently released, which is GPT Image 2.0. You can test it out on one specific blog post, which is the following one. And here it is. I'm going to copy the URL here. And let's see the output here. All right, so it came up with a plan, and as you can see here, it reminds me that the current agent uses GPT Image 1 and that the new model will be GPT Image 2 that was just released. So there's a safe test that is planned here, with the output being saved inside the project and not directly to production. Okay, so let's go ahead and see the actual output. Okay, so the results are in, and I also see that as an occasion to compare the costs of GPT Image 2 as compared to GPT Image 1. So here's actually the output here that was generated. So let me actually open it up here. All right, so I'm going to open it up here. All right, here we go. And let's actually open up again the thumbnail here so that we can have like a kind of side-by-side comparison. So you could actually say that the image generated by GPT Image 2 is actually better because it looks like more comprehensive. It is more fine-grained. It goes into more details inside the image. So to that regard, I assume that GPT Image 2 has more potential for generating complex images. The question here is, should I actually move to GPT 2 based on like the goal of what should this image answer to? And in my opinion, I should keep those images on each of my blog posts as conceptual as possible, which also means that they should be as simple as possible. So as a conclusion for me, this model for this specific feature may not be actually the right fit. That being said, there's also the question about the costs. And so I asked Claude to bubble up the side-by-side comparison in terms of costs, and we see that for most of the images, it is, and actually for most of those, GPT Image 2 should be less expensive. And let's actually verify it. So I actually open up my OpenAI console here. And as you can see here, we spent actually 15 cents on the generation of this thumbnail as compared to, for instance, this day here where I spent 25 cents. So it seems like it would be less costly for me. So here I have actually two solutions. So either I actually stick with the current workflow, or I move on to using GPT Image 2, even if it means modifying the system prompt in such a way that it actually puts that much more looks like what I had initially. So that was the first test I wanted to run. And now I want to test it out on another AI feature that I have. This is one that I use actually internally for generating the thumbnails of the free videos that I also publish on YouTube. So these are available here. And as you can see, I have like obviously various thumbnails for all the videos. And what I want to do here is that I want also to test out GPT Image 2.0 on these thumbnails. So for now, here's what the workflow actually looks like. So it's actually relying on GPT 3.0 Pro Image, and it's actually much more complex than the the current workflow here. Let me just adjust this, okay? So it's much more complex than the first one. So there's actually two parallel workflows. So there's one workflow that takes as input a portrait of myself, basically, and that generates a modified portrait depending on the video that I shot. So more precisely, depending on the transcript that obviously describes what the video is all about. So basically what it does is that it takes this image, I think, as input, and as output it generates this kind of generated heads that actually reflects, the overall feeling that I want to convey during the video, okay? So that's a first workflow, and for this workflow currently I use GPT 3.0 Pro Image, and here what we're going to do is that we are actually going to put it to the test on Gemini 3.1 and on GPT-2 Image. And in parallel, we also have another workflow that takes the transcript as well, that generates a description of a concept for the video. So the concept is actually like, for instance, for this one, it's what is like the kind of charts or schemas or like image that I want to add up, basically. It can also take as input other thumbnails that I found on YouTube that I'd like to copy, basically. And once it has generated the full description and I have validated the description, then it's going to actually generate the concept image, so without the portraits. And currently it's still using GPT 3.0, and here what we're going to do as well is add up GPT 3.1 and GPT 2 Image. And once both images from these two parallel workflows are generated, then we will actually ask again the LM to combine those to make it a full-fledged thumbnails that answer to the various requirements of a YouTube thumbnail, basically. So that's exactly what we're going to put. Okay, so let's now test this out. So let's open up actually a new session. That way we'll start from a fresh context, and let's actually ask Claude to run this for these three models. So I have this alias that lets me spin up a Claude session with bypass permissions on. All right, so we are going to generate 3 different thumbnails for a specific video that I'm going to share with you. Currently, we are using for our workflow GPT 3.0, but what I want you to do is actually test it out with GPT 3.1 image and ChatGPT 2 image. At the end, what I'd like to do as well is have like a side-by-side comparison of the various prices, so that I can also take this parameter into account. Here's the ID of the video. So the thing is that I have actually, so I use Tela for recording my videos, and as you can see here, I have a new video that is going to be published soon about like Claude managed agents and an automation workflow that I implemented with it. And I just need to actually start the download here. And once the download is started, I just need to share the ID of the video, and it's going to actually fetch the video via the Tela's MCP. Claude has all the parameters as input to like run this test with the free thumbnail images, so it's going to obviously take up a bit of time. Okay, so the thumbnail images are now ready, and we have those 3 images available now. So here's a side-by-side comparison. So here's the 3.01. So you can see that my head is not that actually does not look that realistic, I think. It's a bit dark, honestly. It lacks a bit of brightness. It's a bit better on the 3.1 Gemini 3.1 side. It's a little bit brighter. My head is a bit more realistic based on like the source image. We have like this timer here. I don't know why they added it here, and I don't really like the colors of, for instance, the OpenAI logo. That does not actually reflect the initial color of the logo. And here's ChatGPT Image 2, and it's way better. It's brighter overall. I mean, my portrait is more realistic, and also I feel like the logos from NAN and OpenAI are also more, I mean, closer to the actual logo from these 2 companies. Okay. The only thing that is a bit broken here is that the text actually overlaps with the portrait image, but I mean, that's all good. That's another iteration that I can run with the AI just to modify this and making sure that it's like organized in a straight line here. Okay, so all good. So in my opinion here, GPT Image 2 is the winner. Obviously, we will need to test it out on a few other sample data, but it looks pretty good. So I'm very likely going to change. The only thing that I want to verify is also the costs. And so I asked Claude to spin up like a side-by-side comparison of the costs. And it seems like GPT 3.1 is cheaper than GPT 3.0, which is well, interesting to know, because GPT 3.1 looks better, and so if it's cheaper, it makes it obvious to change. However, it seems like GPT Image 2 is more expensive than Gemini 3.1. It's in the same ballpark as Gemini 3.0. This is like an approximation based on the pricing pages and the overall pipeline we went through using these LLMs. The real accurate value would come from actually checking out our respective accounts on Google and OpenAI to compare the exact price. So that's why also you need to take this evaluation with a pinch of salt, because you need to assess the actual price and also the conclusions from this video. So whether it be for the blog image or for the YouTube thumbnail, is that GPT Image 2.0 seems like a good deal, honestly. It can be quite costly on more complex workflows, but what it means is that you really need to put it to the test on your AI features and taking into account the output and also the overall cost. So I'm very curious to know how it fares on your own AI features. Is GPT Image 2 the winner, basically? At least I find it very interesting to see that despite Anthropic like keeping rolling out new models and new features, OpenAI is still hard at work rolling out a very forming model. So yeah, very interesting to get your say about this. And again, I'll see you in another video very soon.